Can I encourage everyone to take a seat, please? Yeah. Can I encourage the masses to take their seats? Pascal? Yeah. Can I, we're an intimate group tonight. If you'd like to move forward a bit. I don't bite. I'm sure these people in the front don't bite. You okay? Okay, everyone's comfortable where they are? All right, well, good evening, and thank you for coming out this evening. Very much appreciate the effort to come out. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Annie Glasspool. I'm with Bermuda Environmental Consulting. I'm joined by my colleague, Jack Ward, and we're also joined by Pascal Mira from LAS Consulting International. Together, we have been engaged to conduct what is called an environmental and social impact assessment for the proposed redevelopment of the airport. Now, Pascal's going to explain a little bit more detail what that environmental and social impact assessment is. Some of you may be familiar with the process, some of you may not. I'm also pleased that we're joined this evening by Ken Hazard, who is the commercial lead for airport redevelopment for AECOM. And also sitting in the audience is Donald Gray, who's with the Department of Airport Operations and brings his wealth of experience and expertise to this evening's proceedings. Fairly straightforward format this evening. We are here really with three objectives. Firstly, we're here to share information about the project. Ken is going to give an overview of what is proposed so that you get an understanding of what is planned and what isn't planned, so you understand the full scope of what is being proposed. Then, critically, we are here to get your feedback. I'm sure you have many questions. Some of them we may be able to answer them, some of them not. But we also have questions of you. Okay, it's really important. We're on a fact-finding mission. We're on a fact-finding mission to find out how you think this project, this proposed development, might impact you. Our task is to take that information and make an assessment of those impacts in this formal process called the Environmental and Social Impact Assessment. Okay, so it's a threefold objective this evening. Your participation is critical. We're going to encourage you to give us your feedback in different ways. So we will have a question and answer session, but we will also probably maybe break into one or two groups and focus on key issues that you may have. Opportunities, concerns. When we talk about impact assessment, we are talking about both positive and negative impacts. I would ask, just for some basic meeting ground rules, first of all, if we can all talk without being offensive, if we can all try and listen without being defensive, be respectful of other people's opinions. We all come from different perspectives, and it should be an educational and interesting evening to hear other people's perspectives. Please try and be concise. I know we all may have burning things that we want to say. Let's try and be concise. We're not a big group tonight, so that gives us a bit more flexibility with regards to time, but let's try and keep things concise. And try and stay on topic. If something has been raised already as a matter for discussion, let's try and then move on once we've discussed it to something different. Okay, try not to repeat things if we can. Just again, to keep the momentum going and make sure we get the most out of this evening. And just, if you've got cell phones, can you just please put them on vibrate or turn them off? Okay. That's all I'm going to say right now. I'm going to hand over to Ken, who is going to give us an overview so we can understand really what this project is about. Ken? It's just this one here. That one here. Okay?
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Annie, and thank you everyone for being here. Some of you may have attended one of our town hall meetings. We had one in St. George and one in Hamilton before the Christmas season. And one of our messages was that the airport development project, the project for the development of a new airport for Bermuda and Bermudians, it's going to be a consultative process. And the consultative part of the process actually goes on for the entire project until the new airport is built. So the environmental, social impact analysis is part of that. You have your input, all the communities will have their opportunity to speak, and that will continue until 2020. Another example this week is the contracting of local architects to input to the design of the airport to make sure that it has a Bermudian feel and sense of place. But what this presentation is really just more technical, to give an overview of what we're planning to do and give you a sense of what impact it might have on the environment and the community. So what it involves is financing, building, and operating the project over a 30-year concession period, including construction and operation of a new terminal, new passenger terminal, construction and operation of additional apron space, which is for parking and moving of aircraft, installation of new apron lighting systems, modifications to the taxiway, interconnects and interface, installation and operation of a new aircraft hydrant fueling system, and decommissioning of the majority of the existing terminal. This is a plan that shows the location of where the new terminal is going to be. In case anybody can't see from the country, it's close to the existing terminal. The parties involved include the Government of Bermuda, Ministry of Tourism and Transport as the owner of the airport, contrary to what anybody's told you publicly or that you've seen in the media. This is not a privatization. It's a public-private partnership model, and the Bermuda government retains ownership of the airport and control of the airport through regulation of the concession. The airport development agreement is between the Bermuda government and the Canadian government acting through the Canadian Commercial Corporation, which is a crown corporation of the Government of Canada that connects government with Canadian suppliers and Canadian technology. And the CCC has appointed ACON as its subcontractor and ACON Concessions as the equity provider for a special purpose entity to deliver the balance of the project deliverables. For anybody that doesn't know, ACON is the largest publicly traded construction company in Canada and has developed projects across Canada and around the world, including a lot of airports. The need for a new terminal, probably everyone knows that Kinley Field was opened in 1944 by the US military. Ownership and control passed to the Bermuda government in 1995. Several renovations were undertaken over the years, some 10, 20 years apart, and most recently from 1995 to 2000 during the transition from the U.S. Air Force to the Bermuda government. The facilities, a lot of which are 70 years old at this point, require significant maintenance. And on the site where the passenger terminal is currently located, there's the risk of stormwater damage. There's been flooding from previous hurricanes. For the government now and for previous governments, there's also the issue of visitors' first and last impression of Bermuda. And part of that is the safety and other risks. Bermuda is a destination that has a lot of elderly and sometimes disabled visitors, and also what we call PRMs, passengers with restricted mobility. That also includes pregnant women or people that are traveling with small children that they carry in their arms. For any of those categories of passengers going up and down stairs inside the terminal if they're bound for the United States, or arriving in Bermuda, going down the stairs or leaving, going up the stairs in the rain, is neither a pleasant, memorable experience or a safe experience. And when you compare what is being done in the 21st century at other airports around the world, it's really a question of making, Bermuda at the level of 21st century airports. I have to go back. This is the project time schedule. So you can see we started halfway through 2015. And by early 2020, we expect the project to be complete. Through the process, we've been doing site studies and initial designs, due diligence. We're on the environmental and social impact analysis part right now. We expect to get to financial close sometime around November of this year and start construction by the end of 2016. And the construction phase goes from the end of 2016 to the beginning of 2020. At the beginning of this presentation, I was referring to the top line stakeholder consultation and engagement. So it's Bermuda's airport. It's going to belong to you, and you'll be consulted all through the process. Construction activities, these are normal for any major infrastructure construction projects, so there'll be earth moving, site preparation, sub-base preparation, compacting and stabilization of soils, asphalt and concrete pavement, and then the building and infrastructure construction of the terminal and other facilities. Some of you may have been aware that we were recently doing geotechnical work, drilling down to bedrock to understand what kind of a foundation the terminal required. That work is now complete, and we're proceeding with the final design of the terminal according to the findings of that study. Final design of the foundation at this point. Construction equipment, some of this is not available in Bermuda, and some is. The plan is to source as much locally as we can, not only equipment but labor. In terms of equipment, barges, trucks, loaders and excavators, tractors, bulldozers, paving equipment, motor graders, vibratory compactors, cranes, and a whole bunch of different kinds of trucks for fuel, water, and service. In addition to the new terminal building, we'll be building new infrastructure to support it. And for anybody who can't read it from where you're sitting, I'll tell you, there's a proposed wastewater treatment plant, proposed sewage pumping station, a proposed potable water storage tank, a new power substation, and some changes to the taxiways. So for example, taxiway B, I don't know if you can see here, but there'll be a place that allows aircraft to pass each other going in different directions. Allows for more efficient operation of the terminal and faster turn times for the airlines. So this is really just a summary of the operations aspects. There's a new terminal. At the front, it'll be a one-level building, and at the back on the air side, it'll be 2 levels so that passengers can flow directly through the passenger loading bridges into the aircraft without having to go up and down stairs. The movement inside the terminal will be with escalators and elevators with redundancy so that if anything ever breaks down, there's always another way to get up and down without using stairs. Taxiways and aircraft holding bay, designed to ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization standards. The terminal apron and hydrant fueling system I mentioned. There's going to be a new drainage system and sewerage. I also mentioned the potable water treatment, solid waste management, power and communications. So there's going to be a switchover strategy from the existing power system to a new power source earmarked for the passenger terminal building, and a new system of landside roadways and parking. I mentioned decommissioning of the existing terminal. Some of it is actually on the point of collapse. So part of it will be decommissioned after operations of the new terminal begin. And the remaining structure may be used for airport operations and office space. At this point, it's starting to look like maybe the entire existing structure will have to be demolished. The current fuel hydrant line will also be partially decommissioned, where aircraft stands are abandoned or repurposed and new stands are built in front of the new terminal building. And there's also has to be a relocation of the existing fuel line that runs through the airfield because it goes under the site of the new terminal building. And that's an overview of the project. And I just want to reiterate, your participation is really important to us, and we'll be coming back again and again to, get your input on the project. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to give you just a brief presentation on the environmental and social impact assessment process to get you familiar with what we're currently doing, and then we'll open it up for some questions and answers. So thank you again for coming tonight, and I just want to get a sense in the room of your experience with environmental impact studies to date. Have you been involved in these studies before or in this process for other projects at all? Okay, so I've got a few slides, and if things aren't making sense, feel free to ask me for clarification during the brief presentation or after. So now I need to figure out how this works. Page down, okay. There we go. So, an environmental and social impact assessment is basically a process that we undertake to identify and assess the potential effects of a project. And those potential effects are environmental, social, and economic. And as Annie had already indicated, we look not only at the negative impacts of the project, but also the potential benefits of the project. We also look at measures that the company, the developer, can put in place to either reduce or avoid the negative impacts of the project, and also to enhance some of the benefits of the benefits of the project, or enhance people's ability to participate in those opportunities that the project may create. Am I speaking okay in this mic? You're understanding? Okay. The other important thing to note is that this process ultimately results in a report that goes to the regulator, and the regulator uses the report to inform their decision making. So it gives them an understanding of what the impacts are, how they will be managed, and then they can take that into consideration in deciding about the project and their decision about it. Mm-hmm. What regulator? So in this case, it's the Bermudian government Department of Planning. Sorry. Yes, so we would be submitting our documents to that department. So another important aspect of the assessment is that we look at all project phases. So we look at construction-related impacts, potential operations-related impacts, and then also the project-related impacts around decommissioning. So we look at the whole life cycle. And as we've already mentioned a few times, the participation of stakeholders in this process is very important. We have public participation throughout the process, and it helps us to identify impacts that we may have missed, hear back concerns or your feedback on how we've done the work and on the results that we've found. And it's part of the process, as you'll see on the next slide here. I've just put up a slide that shows you how ESIA works, and it's basically a 4-staged process with scoping, which is the first main step, and that's basically what we're doing right now, is the scoping. So we're identifying the issues that we need to look at during the assessment. And part of the scoping is hearing back from you and others. This is actually one of the consultations we've had, but we've also had with other stakeholders, including government and non-governmental organizations. And then tomorrow we'll be in St. George's, and then the next day in Hamilton. So we're going to a broad spectrum of stakeholders in this consultation. And then the next step is actually when we get down to work and look at understanding those impacts, or potential impacts, I might say, and describing them in the report, and then assessing them and saying, well, are these going to be significant impacts, or are they not going to be significant impacts? And again, in that part, we take into account mitigations and enhancement measures. The third step is planning to manage the plans that we put in place to manage the effects. So there will be a social impact management plan and an environmental management plan as well that would be implemented throughout construction and operations. And lastly, we would submit this to the Department of Planning, and the department has a 14-day review period for the public, so you'll be able to see the final version of the report and have 14 days to comment on it. Our intent is to come back between now and then and have other consultations, though, so this isn't the last time you'll be seeing us. So again, the public input throughout the process, as put under that slide. So one thing I did want to mention is social and environmental and economic impacts are looked at in the document somewhat separately, just so that we're able to categorize them and discuss them thoroughly. But I think, as you would already know, the social and the environment and the economics are related and interlinked. So we also we also work towards understanding what those connections are. Obviously, I didn't go to art school. And so we try and look at also these kinds of connectivities when we do our work, which is why we're having this particular evening talking about environmental, social, and economic together with you. So what we've identified to date in our work, which included some consultations already with people and our review of the project information and experience with other similar projects, is that the project may have effects on employment and procurement opportunities. There's also potential effects on creating business development opportunities, fiscal effects, economic opportunities. There's also potential for workforce effects. For example, the workforce coming from outside Bermuda, how that might affect infrastructure and services within Bermuda, or accommodation, for example. Look also at health effects on livelihoods, and changes to infrastructure and services from the project. And then also changes to recreational use of nearby land. So I know there's some people in the room with interests in that, as I found out earlier. Yes. Did I say that? Yeah, I said that. Pardon? Yes. Right, and we can address that just after I finish off. There's, I'm sure, many questions about employment, and the idea is to have local employment as much as possible. What we look at in terms of impacts is understanding the whole picture around employment and what that means. But I think I will earmark that one for the Q&A. Okay. All right, and so other things these are more on the environmental side. We're looking at land and waterfront use and planning. What are the effects of on marine and terrestrial resources, if any? Air quality, including dust, groundwater quality, public and worker health and safety, changes to heritage and cultural resources, and visual landscape and light, traffic and noise, and effects of those on people. So those are the kinds of things that we understand to be potential effects of a project like this one. And we're here tonight to hear back from you to see if we've captured things, if you think we might be missing particular effects to include in our study, and then also to hear what your concerns and interests are in the project. So we'll just move on here to the next steps. Where do I have to point this? Maybe just do it there. Okay, so this scoping phase will be finishing up with writing up a report of our activities and our findings and what we finally will be putting into the impact assessment and considering. And that will be at the end of the first quarter. Then we do our data collection and studies and the full impact assessment, first, second, and third quarters, and then submit the ESIA report to the regulator third quarter of 2016. As I mentioned, there's consultation throughout, and there's the Department of Planning's own review period for 14 days. And then we expect to have a decision fourth quarter of 2016. And then if the project is approved, then construction is able to begin. So until that approval, there's no construction. And that's it. I have a little slide here for contact information. And we've got a few contacts for you. The project-related information, anything about the project, Ken, who's here tonight, can be a point person. We've also got Bermuda Environmental Consulting, Annie, who's here tonight, who can also be a resource, and or LAS, Graham Smith. We're also putting up a Facebook page, so that will be helpful in communicating out information out to you and also enabling you to go on the page and make comments as needed, as you wish. That page should be coming out and being live this week, I believe, if that's still on schedule. And a website will also be developed, but that's coming up in a little while, a couple months from now. So please, if you're interested in the project and it's the progress that we're making on this study, then I encourage you to look out for those forms of communication. So that's all I have for you. Thanks for listening. And we are now going to open up to approximately a 20-minute Q&A, which gives you an opportunity, given we have Ken here from AECON, to ask questions, or to myself or Annie or Jack about the process itself. And then, as Annie mentioned, I just want to give you a bit of a heads up on the rest of the evening. What we're going to do is then break up into groups around different topics and have you kind of go around these different topic areas and brainstorm what your potential interests or concerns are around environment, social, and economic. And then we will also have time at the end to come back, and I would like to keep some time for additional last questions that might have come up in your mind, so you have another opportunity. Okay, so with that, I will ask you, please, if you have questions. Are we going to move the mic over there? Oh, we're going to use this one. Okay. Oh. Okay, so just put your hand up and you will have.
And the only thing I would just say, if we can try and keep them fairly concise so we give everyone a chance to.
Good evening. I'd like for you to explain a few things. First one is the guaranteed minimum revenue projection, as that if you don't reach that projection, the taxpayer will pay you. The other thing is it state about changes to recreational use of nearby land. Are you taking some of the recreational land and use it for building purposes? One of the topics they had up there was the stakeholders' concerns and interests. Explain that. The other thing is the changes to heritage and cultural resources value. I would like for you to explain that. And the effects of livelihoods in Bermuda.
Okay.
Please explain this.
And if you don't mind, could you just run them one at a time, and I'll answer each one in turn?
The guaranteed minimum revenue projections.
Yeah.
That's in the proposed contract.
Yeah. It's actually not guaranteed revenue projections because nobody really knows what the traffic is going to be, what drives the revenue of the airport. So the mechanism of the guarantee is actually something that's requested by the lenders to show Bermuda's support for the project, but more importantly, to get an investment grade rating on the financing, which makes the project less expensive. You'll be happy to know that the guarantee is structured in a way that it actually doesn't cost Bermuda money. The traffic projections for the project and the level of growth required for the project to work, and the government not to have to resort to the guarantee, is extremely conservative. It's like 1.2% a year growth. And the way the mechanism of the guarantee works is if it's applied, it goes into a special account that is not drawn on. The government of Bermuda receives equity certificates for the amount. And what happens is the project goes along paying down the debt, just like a house that has a mortgage. The debt is always bigger at the beginning, and over time it becomes less. So the debt service coverage ratio required by the lenders is automatically coming down. And then at that point, Bermuda gets its money back. And then once the airport's actually, the lenders are paid back and the airport's turning a profit, the profits are shared with the government.
Right. I mean, we only get about 14 flights maximum per day now.
Yeah.
You're not going to get any more than 20 flights in if you get some more hotels. So you can't project between there. I mean, why should it be a minimum guarantee? There's no business in Bermuda that gets a guarantee. Nowhere in Bermuda gets that. You can take taxpayers' money to guarantee you something for a airport that handles only about 14, 15 flights maximum a day, and you're proposing, first it was 200 million, now it's 255 million, when you have an airport at Cayman Islands, Antigua, and even in the Bahamas, what they've finished so far is less than that. And Bahamas has more flights than us.
Okay, so we can get into a discussion about where the traffic in Bermuda is at and what its potential is. The reason that investors are willing to look at this project and possibly risk their investment in the project is because 30 years ago, Bermuda had more traffic than it does now. Bermuda had more hotels than it has now. Bermuda had more tourists arriving by air than it does now. And there's a reason why there's been a continuous decline here. And there's a belief on the part of people in Bermuda, Bermudians, and people outside Bermuda that this can be turned around. And that's what this project is about. It's about Bermuda turning around and not being a ghost town in 20 years.
Bermuda had, the maximum they had was 10,000 beds. Now we have 5,000 beds. We're never going to get back to 10,000 beds.
What makes you think that?
Pardon?
I said, what makes you think that?
Because I knew that.
Well,
what hotels, what room do we have to build more hotels to get 10,000 beds?
Yeah, the projection within the next 5 years is for up to a 20% increase in hotel capacity. When I talk about a requirement of 1.2% annual growth in traffic, 20% increase in hotel capacity will more than serve that.
You don't know the Bermuda tourism. You don't know it.
Well, I know what it was. I know what it was. I know that even as recently in 2007, it was sufficient for us to get to the target for the year 2028, which is the design build year for the project. So if you don't believe that Bermuda by 2028 can get back to 2007, I would suggest maybe you could be more optimistic.
A lot of those hotels that we had in that day, when we had 10,000 beds, are hotels no more, and something else is built on them.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's like, all I'm saying is that a lot of people for a lot of years have looked at the project, and there's a theory about how Bermuda can be turned around.
We'll disagree all night on that. Let me go to the next one. The changes to recreational use of nearby land.
Yeah, our understanding, right, is that around the airport, there's some land that's used for camping some times of the year. There's a motor raceway in one place. I think that's down on the list just to get your input on, what the impact of the airport might be on those recreational activities. There's no plan in the airport development project to take over the camping areas or any of the other recreational areas outside the airport.
Okay, the other thing is, when you say you take into account the stakeholders' concerns and interests, explain that to me.
Okay, well, it's what we're doing right now. While you're asking these questions, these people are making notes. This is, as I explained at the beginning, a scoping study. So as the project progresses, your concerns will be addressed. If there's, every place is different. I've been doing airport projects for the last 20 years, most of them island airports. And there's a lot of things that islands have in common, but there's also differences. So our objective is to address the concerns of Bermudians for this project, and that's what we're here to discuss. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just to let you know, I am I'm legally blind right now, but I have a sense to see a project this big that's going to affect Bermuda, and I see many empty chairs. I don't know what kind of advertisement was done for meetings or whatever, because I'm sure you would want fewer people here anyway. But this place should have been packed, because this is going to impact Bermuda forever if this project goes through. So we should have had this auditorium filled. So I want to know, what was the advertisement that has gone out about these meetings? Because Bermudians have been discussing this over the airwaves, over the radio, primarily on one station. I don't know whether advertisement, I might be wrong. Let me know whether was advertisement put in the Royal Gazette.
Yeah, can I just answer? So there was an announcement that went out 2 weeks ago. There was a further press release that went out last week, and as a result of that, radio stations picked up on that, and there was an interview on the radio station as a result of that.
No, one radio station.
Okay, VSB picked up on it, and that's based on the press release that went out. So that was where the interest was. It's also been circulated on various websites. So, for example, Corporation St. George's.
This is not getting out to the Bermudians. This is not getting out to us who need to be here. This building should have been packed with people.
Can I ask you? Would you give us some suggestions as to how we actually reach more people? Because we welcome those. As I said, this is not going to be the only opportunity, so we will take on board any suggestions that you might have. We would appreciate that, very much appreciate that. Any avenues?
Okay, to me, this project, if you don't understand what I'm saying, this project is so enormous. It's going to impact Bermuda. I just say forever. I'm just saying every radio station should have played it. It should have been a complete, continuous follow-up with it on Gazette, Bernews, whatever news you have. It should have been that. Well, but to your advantage, I think you don't want us here.
Well, I'm very grateful for those of you who have come out. I hope that your message has got out this evening, because this is being televised, and we do have 2 more meetings this week. As I say, we will have more meetings, so if you have any suggestions, we welcome those suggestions as well, please.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
My name is Peggy Burns, and I wish to express my sentiments concerning this whole airport situation. I personally feel in my heart's deepest that this contract should go to Bermudians only. And I'd like to share with you something that I put together myself concerning this matter. Parents are children's first teachers. My mother and father were mine. I'll focus on my mother, who had many pithy sayings, all of which I'm guided by today. When I was a young child, she inculcated the principle of share and share alike. I never asked her what that meant. Instinctively, I knew it had something to do with giving others an equal portion of something that I had. So I'm going to come to you from the place of the heart. Her instruction to my siblings and I was, whenever something was offered to us, that we should take only one. Think of leaving something to somebody else. I'll use candies as an example. Imagine a child taking only one candy. However, as I sought to obey my mother, I'd help myself to only one candy, being mindful of leaving some for somebody else. This principle also applied to offerings of a different nature. I always shared whatever I had with my siblings. This is a small demonstration of regard for others. Charity begins at home. I share with you a story of an experiment regarding the principle, share and share alike, based on an ancient South African word, Ubuntu, meaning humanity to others. And I am because of who we all are. An anthropologist proposed a game to children of an African tribe. He put a basket of fruit near the tree and then told them that the first one to reach the fruit would win them all. When he told them to run, they all took each other's hands and ran together, then sat together eating the fruits. When asked why they ran like that, as one could have taken all the fruit for oneself, they said, Ubuntu. How can one of us be happy if all the others are sad? Bermuda is home to 61,800 plus people. We have only one airport, let's say one candy. And according to a May 2015 survey conducted by Profiles of Bermuda, nearly 74.7% of voters were opposed to having it developed and run by a foreign company. Less than 2 in 10 voters were in favor of the OBA government initiative, and 1 in 10 were unsure. And of course, you can check the website of Profiles of Bermuda at www.profilesofbermuda.bm. Many islanders have been persistent in calling for the OBA to look at other alternative proposals and to no avail. There's also a prevailing unhappiness, fear, and anger over their 30-year airport concession grant to the Canadian Commercial Corporation, CCC. At the expiration of that 30-year contract, many of us will have passed through the door of no return, and I might add, empty-handed. There's one islander in our midst with an alternative proposal for the redevelopment of our airport, which is superior to that of CCC. He is Craig Luby, a Bermudian and founder and president of Urban Maximum Industries, UMI. The foreign company CCC, with more than 65 years of international contracting experience, has no doubt over those many years amassed a fortune for themselves and their families. Charity begins at home. Recently, I was told that CCC would fully accept that the Bermudian people can, at any time, choose to go with another option in regard to the airport development. CCC, if this is true, be aware that the position of the majority population remains unchanged. We want the government to consider other alternative proposals at home where we would see the principle of share and share alike and act it. It would be the right thing to do. Ubuntu, how can one of us be happy if all others are sad? A petition calling for the OBA to withdraw its contract from UCCC is available at the back, and I encourage you to sign it. We want to retain the contract here in Bermuda. We have people who are quite capable on the ground, who can build this airport, who can design this airport. We have the expertise on this island. Now, if you are honest about hearing us, then hear us.
Thank you, ma'am. We've heard you. Okay. May I try to bring this back on track? So just so that you understand what our role here is as Bermuda Environmental Consulting, we're here to do an audit of the project, of how this project works or does not work as it relates to the perceptions of the community, as it relates to environment, economic, and social impacts. We hear that there's major concern about the finances. Can we please, well, first, may I ask, who here is concerned about the financial arrangement?
Everybody.
Okay, so the 100%, can we please put that down as a primary issue? But please, there may be others, and we would like to tease out what are the environmental and social potential positives and negatives from this project. Our job is to do an audit of the project, and we clearly see 100% concern about the financial arrangements. That is something that obviously needs to be addressed, needs to be answered. That will be a key part of the project going forward. There's actually is already engaged a group that is working on the financial the economic aspects of this project. So if we could please move from the economic issues and look at some of the other environmental issues. I am Bermudian. Shelley Bay. Okay, please. One second, just after.
You're ready?
No, please.
Okay. My question, and it may have been asked, is basically regarding finances. And I want to know how, when you consider the fact that we have only about 7 flights a day, how you can justify paying $200+ million for renovations in an airport where we're only accommodating 7 flights a day.
Fair enough.
Certainly that is not value for money to the Bermudian people.
Absolutely, Madame. That has been captured. That will be part of the study. That's a question that has to be answered. So again, if we can move away from that financial issue to see there's...
I do think this is a major issue for most Bermudians, so we don't wish to move away from that. The other question is, aren't there modifications that can be had? We've seen airports of similar size in other jurisdictions where renovations have been done perhaps to the tune of $50 million. That is a far cry from $200+ million. Yes. And certainly, looking at Bermuda and the number of tourists that we have arriving on our shores via planes, that one would be looking at trying to make the renovations within that range that Bermuda can accommodate. Because certainly $250 million plus is not a bill that the average Bermudian can afford.
Thank you very much.
As Mrs. Burns said, nor do we want.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to know where the government officials are this evening and why they're not here.
They're not here.
Something very major.
I'm sorry. Excuse me, we have, could you, at the front, please?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just had a question. You're here to do environmental social impact study?
Yes, sir.
That should come before these people get a sweetheart deal. These are the type of things you ascertain. You're Bermudian, I'm Bermudian. 75% of us don't want it. This tonight is a snow job. It is.
Absolutely not.
It is to justify the sweetheart deal. Bermudians are at angst with this project. Any environmental, which I'm very much in favor of, and social impact study should happen before someone gives someone the right to have access to $1 billion over a 30-year period. And so what you're trying to get us away from is what our feelings and our hearts across this country is upset, and we can't allow these people to move forward. And as a Bermudian, you shouldn't facilitate that, because people in Bermuda can't afford this country.
Okay.
And we can't afford to give them the assurance.
Thank you very much. Actually, my job is not to facilitate the development. It's actually to do an audit, an independent audit, and for it to be a credible document that has to stand to muster.
Thank you, Jack. Good evening, everybody. I am a born Bermudian. And I just have a little bit of concern, and I wondered if I could ask for some reassurance here, please. about particularly the financial economic side of things. I learned today that the financial closure date has actually been advanced to occur before the ASIA process is complete. And according to your structured plan that you showed us earlier, it is not going to be finished until the fourth quarter. Now, I understand my information today tells me that the financial closure date has been brought forward to July, which is quite some months ahead. Could you comment on that and just give me some reassurance as a Bermudian that in fact this process will be complete before we part with the final closure of the finances?
Thank you for that good question. Ken, if you would, please.
This consultation is part of the requirement of the lenders, so there won't be financial close until this work is complete. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Craig Luby. I'm founder and president of Urban Maximum Industries. When this project was initially decided to move forward, there was no consultation with the general public, no opportunity for any other interested parties to actually put forward a secondary proposal. The UMI group has a second option for the island to consider. And we have been asking for the government to engage with us in discussions to actually put forward this alternative and let the population decide which way they want to go. To date, we have not really had any real meaningful input from the government into this request. We have been asking to be vetted by the Bermuda Monetary Authority so that the resources that are at hand and our capitalization, which is also in hand, can be confirmed and information provided to the public that the experience, capacity, and capitalization is available for us to replace the current parties at the table and move forward with this development. We are also looking at a public-private partnership model, but we are looking at deploying more infrastructure than just the airport itself. We're looking at replacing both bridges, and we're looking at a completely new energy power production system that's based on renewable energy of 200 megawatts, all based on renewable energy. The public needs to show that this is a democratic country, and the country needs to ensure that its interests long-term are being examined to the point where this second option can be examined by the public. The investors overseas are asking for an MOU so that we can all sit down with the government and actually discuss what we have in mind. And until that time, we're still waiting for the government to engage us. We've gone from minister to minister. We've gone to the premier, and every time I look, there's another minister in charge of this process. Now I see it's the transport minister. So until the people act, it looks like you're gonna get what you say you don't want. So it's up to you all what happens next. With that, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
Good evening. I just would like to know why did you choose the spot that you chose to build this building, and what size building it would be?
Okay, the location for the new terminal building was identified in the 2006 and 2008 master plans developed under the leadership of the PLP government. That master plan looked at every possible location on the airport site because there really is no other place in Bermuda to put an airport.
That's not true.
So that was the site that was identified in the 2006-2008 master plan. That master plan is now being updated. The current Bermuda government retained the same consultants that were the authors of the 2006-2008 master plan, and there has been a complete review with CCC, ACON's consultants, looking again, reviewing the work that was done and looking again at every other possibility, and it turns out it's the preferred location for many reasons. One of the most important being higher elevation, greater resistance, less exposure to storm surge.
That's not true. Because you have a spot right behind the police station out there that's been, when the U.S. Navy was down there, they had all the planes stored down there, and it was a perfect spot. And it's solid rock. Out there where you are going to build, it's all field. You're going to put a massive building out there that's going to continuously crack, that's going to cost us more money. I mean, it's no end to it. Nobody in the right mind will build a massive building on field. Nobody in the right mind, no contractor. So I don't even know where you came up with that idea. Because every day I go across the causeway, you already drew up the plans, and I see you out there drilling, looking for solid rock, and there's none there to be found. So just learn what you're going to spend on footings, you could build half of the building. So really what you're doing is just spending our money, foolishness. You know, and you do have a big area right behind the police station out at Southside that you could put a wonderful airport, and their parking be no problem, and it's the ideal spot for the airport. And see what it is. You not just, and you don't even come from Bermuda, and you're telling me what's best in my country. It don't work like that. I wouldn't go to your country and tell you what to do in your country. That's right.
Hi, I'd like to remind everyone that at the beginning we did introduce some rules of engagement for today, that we would all listen respectfully, and listen and comment in not an offensive way. So I'd like us to continue in that vein. And if you could each speak in turn so that we can hear the person who's speaking, that would be great. So I've got, it's actually 7:35. I've got this gentleman who's been waiting patiently, this gentleman here, and a woman over here, and then I really do want to get back to the employment question just briefly that was raised earlier. And then we'd like to move on with another dimension of this meeting where you'll still be able to voice your interests, just in a different forum, okay?
Thank
you. Yeah,
my name's Alpha Pitcher. I'm a born St. David's Islander. I've been here this year 65 years. Let me say first, the environment impact on Bermuda first is on St. David's Islanders. Firstly, our properties are undervalued, yet we are the gateway to the prosperity of the rest of this island. Our roofs, our houses has to be maintained more so than those in fairylands, but our value of our properties is at a minimum. That's number one. That's the environmental impact it has on St. David's. That's from the pollution of the airplanes. The noise level. I know for the private jets, the people in the West End have been making complaints about that. I've heard them speak out against what's going on with the private jets and the noise pollution. But in St. David's, we have been taken for granted. They just throw anything to us, and then when they see fit, they take it from us. We don't have a post office now. You realize? We don't have a post office now. Pretty soon, they'll take our playing field from us. I'm gonna say tonight that come hell or high water, and what this young man said is a fact. I'm a contractor, I'm a builder. Boys then don't build their house on sand. Okay? If you go and look at some old pictures of Bermuda, you'll find the scattered islands out there. And when they did, they dredged out the channels and the harbor, they pumped the field out there where the airport is. Okay, now that's so much for that. Getting back to, you said that you built airports in various islands. Did you deal with the government or did you deal with a airport authority? Meaning governments come and go. An airport authority is something like taking New York and New Jersey. They have airport authorities run those airports, and you pay to use it. You know, it's a business. The way this thing is, it seems like a handful of people is going to make money, and the contact that's been made in the first place. What came first? I call CCC the chicken, and I call Akon the egg. What came first, the egg or the chicken? My understanding, the chicken was approached by the egg, Akon. You're smiling. And the gentleman Mr. Richards was the one who knew someone, and then he didn't know how it went about, but I'm gonna ask you personally, who went to who to get this thing started?
I don't know. But I do know one thing. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't know that there's three things Bermuda needs. One is a new airport, another is direct foreign investment, and another is jobs. This project delivers all three. And, you know, getting into philosophical questions about the chicken and the egg is not going to get the new airport built. It's really something that Bermuda needs for its survival at this point. And I just like to mention, okay, that the project being developed now, the master plan that is current was developed under the leadership of the PLP government. We're still following that plan. That plan looked at three options. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. One was doing nothing, one was restoring, renovating the existing terminal, and one was building a completely new terminal. That plan calls for the construction of a new terminal because the other two options are actually more expensive. And that plan warns of any delay to the construction of the new terminal beyond 2008. We're now in 2016, and every single day of continuous delay adds cost to Bermuda and adds risk to Bermuda. And that's what we're here to change.
Hello, sorry to interrupt at the back. I agree that we need either a new terminal or something that needs to be done with the existing one. The cost of keeping it up to date is escalating. However, my concern is from a safety point of view, a safety and risk to travellers, air travellers. We are an aircraft carrier here, stuck in the middle of the Atlantic. The nearest airfield to us with a runway 600 plus miles on the East Coast. Lots of flights fly over from various parts, Caribbean up to the northeast, and come in here. Where you're siting it takes out the only standby runway that we have in Bermuda. At 7,500 feet long, standard runway width, 150 feet, and now by putting the terminal where you've planned to put it, is going to take that out. We have no more aces up our sleeves in the case of a crash on the main runway or a hole appearing, and believe me, holes appear in runways unexpectedly. So maybe the siting needs to be reconsidered as to, therefore, keep our flexibility and our responsibility to other air travellers.
I'll acknowledge that safety is the number one concern, of the aviation industry and of ICAO, and as a result, the issue you're raising has been looked at by all kinds of airport planning, master planning experts under the previous government and under the present government, with input from consultants from the UK and from Canada and from other places. And the conclusion is that the location of the terminal is the best location. The issue of the emergency runway is not a concern. Why? Because the main runway is so long that if there's an accident, either end of it can be used instead of the alternative. This has been studied. Yeah, well, I'm not the technical expert. I'm just telling you what the technical experts who have looked at this have told us. Okay. There's also the master plan is currently being updated, and what's being looked at is the alternative of the parallel taxiway being used. It's the same length as the runway.
We have, I'd like to please ask that we close this Q&A session. We had this woman and your employment question that we had, pardon? I think it's been quite some time. So let's, and is your question on employment? Is it the employment question you had? Yes, that's right.
Okay, so don't forget the PLP government wanted to go to Canada to have this airport built. They had the plans for the airport because the Bermudians knew that we needed the airport, and that's what they did. But they did not contract to go to Canada.
Yeah, they didn't contract with anyone.
Thank you.
As a result, there's still no new airport.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that comment.
Good evening. I've been listening to this from the beginning, from when it started. I keep hearing you say jobs for Bermudians, jobs for Bermudians. I can use the hospital for an example. My husband was unemployed for years, and he has experience and is licensed. Every time he went to the hospital for a job, they told him they didn't need no one. But every time he went back there, which I can say was at least 20 times, there was somebody new, and they weren't Bermudian. Okay, so this stuff about jobs for Bermudians, I do not believe it. I will not believe it until this government can show me that they can make jobs for Bermudians, because all they're doing is taking jobs from Bermudians. So until you all can show me, I don't want to hear nothing from nobody's mouth. Show me facts. Show me that you will create jobs. Put it on a contract that born Bermudians, not paper Bermudians, are guaranteed of jobs. Okay? I don't want no PRCs working at that airport before a born Bermudian with 200 years of history in Bermuda that can't get a job for this airport. So I do not want to hear you all talking about jobs for Bermudians, because that has not been proven yet since this government's been in power. Yes. And one more thing. Okay, everybody knows that we need an airport. Yes, we all know we need an airport. I've done a lot of traveling around the world. I have yet to go to any country in the world and say, I'm going back to that country because I love the airport. That's right. Bermuda is too small for an airport. We don't have no layovers. So what do we need a big restaurant for? You only got an hour to be in the airport before you leave your flight. And most Bermudians eat before they leave home. I've worked in a hotel for 32 years, and most tourists eat in the hotel before they get in the plane, because they know that the planes don't serve food. So what do we need a big airport for? Okay, yes, we need an airport, but it doesn't have to enslave us to pay it back. And my grandchildren, my grandson who's a student in school, can't even come back home to get a job in his own country. So what do we need this big airport for? There's no reason for this big, humongous airport. Yes, we need one, but we don't need it to the expense of our children and our grandchildren coming up. Thank you.
Sir, I want to ask you a question. I respect your position and your job, but there's a reporter here. I want to respectfully say to you that I do not expect you to come here and do political bidding. You've made statements tonight that have been political. I've been a politician, I've been a member of the legislature, I've been in politics all my life. I appreciate the professional job that you have to do, but I cannot sit here and allow you to do political bidding where we have politicians, members of parliament that should be here addressing these issues. It's unfortunate, but like I said, you have a business objective. We are residents of this country who have some very serious concerns, and you've been put in an untenable position tonight, right? And it's not just one segment of the society, it's a broad brush of this country. And I want it covered, sir, that it's unacceptable for politicians to use business people who have a very sweetheart deal that Bermudians are up against being used as human shields on a very serious political issue, okay? So I just want, in all due respect, you're here as a businessman. Your job is to make money for your shareholders and to uphold the job that you're doing. I'm a person here because I, like all of these persons, are concerned for the future of this country, and you are being put out there because of the business position that you find yourself in. And I hope for all that it's covered accurately in this in our daily mediums, because it's unacceptable. Thank you.
And with that, my final question, would you consider this is a done deal?
No, it's not a done deal.
Why not?
Because, and
there's a perception of the populace. This is basically
just as we spoke at the beginning of this being a consultative process, there's been discussions going on over a period of about a year and a half, and stages of agreement. The airport development agreement signed August 24, 2015, doesn't make this a done deal. It sets out a schedule for a development phase, which, if successful, leads to the signing of a project agreement and a construction contract preliminary to the financing of the project. If it gets to the point where the risk seems excessive or the project untenable, there will be no project. This is not a done deal.
Thank you. So I'd like to thank you for your questions and comments and the candidness that you've brought tonight to this part of the session. I want to also just reiterate that there's a little bit more time here tonight to delve into some of your other concerns that you might have in smaller groups, to think about environmental and social and economic concerns and interests as well. But before that, just to recap a little bit of what we've heard. We have heard from you tonight. We've heard the concerns about the financial arrangements, the concerns about the project not going to a Bermudian company. We've heard that. We've heard about your concerns around having Bermudian employment opportunities, concerns about safety, risk around the runway. There's been quite a bit said. Sorry? the impacts to St. David's, which I do want to mention that it's one of we do acknowledge that you're the closest to the airport. That's one of the reasons we had a meeting specifically in St. David's. And we did our first meeting here to hear you first. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So we will take into account the comments around how to improve our notifications for these meetings, for upcoming meetings. As I said, we are going to have a Facebook page which will facilitate communication of that kind. So we will look at improving that next round. Yeah. That's correct. Sorry, do you want to restate that?
So it's just to confirm that we've been assured 100% tonight that in July, the financial closure will not take place and that it will not take place before this process that you're engaged in is fully complete. Is that correct?
Right, no financial close will not occur until this process has completed. Yeah. So what I would like to encourage you to do, I know you've been here long, I know you've already provided a lot of input. I really would encourage you to stay for another little bit. It's 5 to 8, but it would be very informative and I think helpful also for you to connect. We've got 3 different stations up on the walls. There's one here called economic, there's a social one, and there's an environment one. There's enough people in the room that we can do three small groups. So one group would go to the economic table, the other to the social, the other to the environment, and you'll have about between 5 to 10 minutes at each station to put up your interests or concerns or issues around the environment and then move on to the next table and talk about social and so on. And then we'll come back and wrap up, and if there's any last questions, we can take them then. Okay?